The yoke is this kind of rectangled piece of fabric at the top on the back of our shirts. And the reason it's called a yoke is because it sits on our shoulders just like those wooden pieces that we saddled on the shoulders of our working animals in the ye olde days. It's still some parts of the world, but mostly yonder times. And wouldn't you know it, these puppies are doing quite a bit of work on our shirts as well. So let's learn all about it. But first, Editing Corn, hit that intro. My name is Cornelius Quiring. That's my logo. That's my word mark. And Cornelius.ooh is my website, where you can see everything I've got going on, including my sewing and pattern drafting courses. Huh? From a construction perspective, this yoke here is doing several things. First, by slicing the back of the shirt here, it allows us to introduce some pleats for the bottom part. Pleats means more fabric, and more fabric means more range of motion in the backs there. This here is what you would call a box pleat, whereas this shirt has them spread out further on the shoulders and both facing out towards the sleeves. I personally haven't found there to be much of a difference from a wearing perspective, so it really comes down to personal preferences and design choices. Now, sometimes you'll also see the fabric for this piece being cut out at a 45-degree angle, or cut out on the bias as it's officially known. All right, let me just cut up some fabric here real quick. Fabric has yarns that run up and down and side to side. It makes it fairly rigid. But we take this fabric and spin it at a 45-degree angle, or have it on the bias, and now all of a sudden, well, this fabric now starts to have some stretch to it. Kinda neat, huh? Having some extra stretch up here also ends up helping with some more range of motion, just like these pleats do. So having a bit of that stretch up top here by the shoulders just further enhances the range of motion, kind of like the pleats do. And you can have a bit of fun with this as well if you want. So rather than having the 45-degree all the way across, slice it down the middle, 45 in one direction, reflect it on the other side, and you just get a little bit more visual intrigue. Slight tweaks and adjustments in our process, and suddenly we're being creative, you know? Speaking of creativity, this shirt may look familiar to some of you from the last video where I got creative and made this here eye pocket that's a touch wonky, but I never promised creativity was going to be perfect. The final construction detail is that we can use the outside edges of the yoke just to taper it in a little bit for the shoulders. Our shoulders naturally curve in a little bit towards our arms here, and so removing a little bit of that excess there by the yoke means there's going to be a little less wrinkling at the back by the sleeve here for a bit more of a fitted look. Something you're going to quite often see on dress shirts, for example. So on my pattern, if I go ahead and just pull out a little bit of that on the edge there, and then curve that back in real nice and smooth, and then do the exact same thing but mirrored on the underside. Once this gets sewn into a proper garment, you see how it just creates this nice curved concave shape for the shoulders? The yokes of shirts are most often made with 2 layers of fabrics, and here again, surprise, surprise, there are multiple reasons. First, what that's going to do is encase the raw edge of the fabric inside by the shoulder here, making it just a little bit more comfortable to wear throughout the day. This would have been a bit more of an issue back in the day when wearing a suit or coat on a daily basis was a thing. And so having the weight of that on top of the shirt could cause a shoulder seam to rub and chafe and become uncomfortable throughout the day. So sandwiching in between two layers, poof, problem gone. In fact, if you look at older shirt patterns from say the 50s or even earlier, you'll notice that this shoulder seam here is often moved noticeably further forward. Even though it's being encased at the top here, having the weight of a coat can still make it uncomfortable. So shift it forward and boom, problem solved. Now this might come as a bit of a shocker, but 2 layers is stronger than 1, which is why Western shirts also have doubled up yokes. These cowboys, they were slinging lassos over their shoulders there and giddying up every day. Woo, you know? That's a lot of stress at the top of the shirt here, and the friction and rubbing in the bush with the lassos, everything. It needed to be strong. So 2 layers it was for the yokes. And 2 yokes is better than 1, which is why Western shirts also have 1 in the front here. That lasso is not going to stop at the shoulders. It's going to rub in the front here too, and so hence a yoke in the front. These yokes then became areas to add embroidery and embellishments, and cowboys and ranches would come up with specific designs to be recognized by. Think of it as sort of the original branding before we all talked about branding. And even they weren't original because they took this idea from the bullfighters of Spain, who created their own unique coats to be recognized by. So like, oh, I like that bullfighter with the blue coat, and he has got that gold heart on the back. Oh, yeah, he's good. I like that guy. We've been branding. We've been making logos, you know? Who knew, eh? Just a simple piece of fabric on our shirts. Maybe didn't even notice it in the past, and yet there's enough that I was able to make a whole video out of it. Now this is not quite as common, but you'll sometimes see this little tab here at the center back of a yoke. It's called a locker loop, and it was designed for Ivy League kids to hang up their shirts in their lockers so that they wouldn't get as wrinkled and they could look all clean and pristine and Ivy League-like. And then it became a thing amongst the students. Once you were no longer single, your galley friend would tear it off or open to indicate your new status of unavailability. We humans, we're weird. Gant shirt makers claims to have invented the locker looper, but there's some disputed history here. Other sources indicate that it was first used in the Navy for the very tight quarters on board. Say that fast 3 times. Locker looper, locker looper, locker looper. And I'm sure I missed some details. I mean, the history of fashion is always very complex and nuanced and multifaceted. So I pass the talking scissors over to you. Do share what you know about yokes down in the comments, or really any other interesting facts about the clothes that we wear that you feel like others would like to know. I know this guy's interested, so do type it out down below. A giant thank you to Quality Sewing and Vacuum for their ongoing support of my efforts here. Gracias. And we now find ourselves at the very end of the video, which means you just might happen to be interested in the Corn Cob Club. What's the Corn Cob Club, you ask? Well, it's a way of supporting my efforts here, vital to keeping the operation going. So a giant thank you to everyone who already is a member. But not only that, you get access to exclusive content, big old discounts on my courses. There's a nice little group chat we've got going on over there too. Appreciate all the participants. And you could even get your name in the video like these here wonderful folks. All right. What is that sound? Someone banging outside? You know, whenever you start filming, it's something happens. But you know what? Good distraction for me to put up a video here that you've hopefully clicked by now. Okay, bye.